Okay, let's have a recap. We dealt with Siddhartha's birth, the prophecy that he would be either a great king or a great teacher, and we had the prince leaving the palace for the first time, and he saw the first 3 of the 4 sights. So he saw old age, which he was totally in denial about. Me too. He saw sickness, which made him really sad, and he saw death, which just terrifies him. He heads back to the palace to work out a plan. He wants to do something about this. He wants to stop the suffering. Of course, when he gets home, he finds that he is now a dad. His wife, Princess Yashodhara, had a son, and of course Siddhartha loves him. He falls in love with him the moment he sees him, and he holds him and says, but this is going to make it more difficult. This will make it harder to walk away. And yet he names him Rahula, which means obstacle or impediment, to signify the difficulty of walking away from this child. But he does walk away. He kisses a sleeping Yashodhara and the baby goodbye, and he heads off. He's accompanied by Channa, faithful Channa, and soon on their way they encounter an ascetic. Now, ascetics are an Indian tradition of holy men, monks, who will live with nothing. They don't own anything, they don't have a home, they don't have clothes, they beg for their food if they're eating much at all. And Siddhartha again is confused. He's never seen anything like this, and this is the 4th sight, our holy person or ascetic. And he says to him, what are you? And the monk says, I'm a seeker of the truth. I'm a seeker of things that don't wither away, things that don't wear out. And Siddhartha thinks, yeah, that's what I need to do. And so he says to Channa, I'm gone, I'm out of here. He takes his long princely hair, cuts off his ponytail, puts on the beggar's robes, and he sets off, wandering in the ascetic lifestyle. Over the next 6 years, Siddhartha learns things. He finds 2 really great teachers of meditation and wisdom, and he learns from them, but he also surpasses them. All the way in this story, Siddhartha shows his great intellect, his great mind, his great abilities. And then he meets up with 5 friends. Now, these are guys who'd also lived in luxury, but had given everything up to follow the ascetic lifestyle. And the 5 friends are owning nothing, they beg for their food, they live in rags, they live in the forest. And Siddhartha says, can I join you? And they say, yeah, but you can't go back to luxury. We've all absolutely forsworn that way of life. This is the only way to achieve wisdom. And so for the next few years, Buddha really, I keep saying Buddha, it's not Buddha yet, Siddhartha tries to live without the luxury, and particularly concentrates on food and limits the amount of food that he eats. The legends say that he got down to eating just 2 grains of rice a day, or sometimes just a few sesame seeds. And he does not get any wiser. In fact, he just gets thinner and thinner, and this is why you always see those statues of skeletal Siddhartha at this stage of his life. And he is very, very close to death at this point, when he realizes this is not making me wiser, this is just going to kill me. Gonna go and find some food, gonna go sleep in a bed. And he leaves the group of 5 ascetics who are absolutely furious. They're like, luxury seeker, you're dead to us. And Siddhartha goes off and has some nice rice pudding and starts putting on a bit of weight and feels healthier again. But he has not given up on the quest. He still wants to find a way to end suffering. So he sits down by a beautiful Bodhi tree in order to meditate, and he vows that no matter what happens, whether my skin and bones wither away. I am not getting up for this spot until I find the answers. Siddhartha sits and he meditates. And this is where we need to introduce this interesting figure of Mara. Mara represents distraction, temptation, that unquiet mind that pulls you away from the things you need to focus on. Some people think of Mara as like a devil type character, but it's much more about our own distraction, our own inability to focus on our task. Procrastination, desires, cravings, attachments can all be represented by Mara. And as Buddha meditates, Mara sends different things to try to distract him, try to prevent him from attaining Buddhahood. During the first stage of Siddhartha's quest for enlightenment, we sometimes call it the first watch of this meditation. Mara sends different things to tempt or distract Siddhartha. He sends his beautiful daughters with the idea of sexual desire being a distraction. He sends demons to frighten him. He sends warriors to try to scare him or get a response from him. But all the time, Siddhartha stays calm and measured and unaffected by the distractions. Mara asks, well, who speaks for you? Who is your witness? There's nobody else there. Who is your witness that you are worthy of enlightenment? And Siddhartha touches the ground. The earth itself is witness to his supreme enlightenment. The earth shows him his previous existences, many other lifetimes he has lived on earth, as kings, as princes, as a lion, and even the king of the snakes, the Naga. And each existence prophesied that he would become the Buddha. Okay, during the second watch of the night, the path to ultimate enlightenment, the second watch, he realizes a really, really key idea in Buddhism, and that's the idea of anicca. Everything changes. Everything is in a state of impermanence. Everything is a cycle of birth, death, rebirth. It's important at this point to think a little bit about Buddhist theology. It's not completely that Buddha says there is no God, but if there is God, then those gods are also trapped in this cycle of birth, death, rebirth. Not an immortal concept of God, but gods too trapped on this wheel. This is shown in a visual representation in what we call the Bhava Chakra. This is the Tibetan wheel of life, and it shows us constantly cycling round, born, live, die, born, live, die, depending on our karma. And it was the understanding of this impermanent nature of existence that helps Buddha realize the way to get off the wheel. That leads into our third watch of the night. In this third stage of enlightenment, he comes up with these four noble truths. Maybe comes up is the wrong word. He establishes the four noble truths, the first of which is that every living thing suffers. We use the word suffering as a translation. Unsatisfactoriness might be better. All living things experience unsatisfactoriness, but it's clumsy in the English language. Dukkha. Dukkha is the word for the experience of suffering. The second noble truth is that the cause of this dukkha, the cause of the suffering, is craving or attachment, wishing things to be other than they are. The third noble truth, good news, suffering can be overcome. And the fourth noble truth is to follow the eightfold path as a means to escaping this cycle of samsara, birth, death, birth, death. At the end of the 3 watches of the night, he has done it. Siddhartha has become the Buddha, one who is awake. Anyone who knows me knows I love my sci-fi films, and this is really like The Matrix, when Neo wakes up for the first time and realizes the illusory life that he has been living. Just like Siddhartha leaving the palace to experience reality as it really is, now he has a deeper understanding of reality, that we are all trapped in this cycle of suffering, and the only way to escape it is to end our cravings and attachments. Having become the Buddha, he then has to decide what to do. Should he keep this knowledge to himself? He will achieve his nirvana and end his suffering, but that's not what it's about for Siddhartha. The quest was always to end the suffering for all beings. So he has to teach. But the life of a teacher is not easy, and he needs some students. So he thinks, well, let me find the ascetics, my 5 good old friends from the past days who are now practicing as monks out in the forest. And so he runs to the deer park in Sarnath, where the 5 ascetics are still practicing their asceticism. And these guys are not pleased when Siddhartha turns up. They're like, luxury lovers back again, probably coming like in his fancy clothes. It's not my fancy clothes. But they have turned their backs on him, literally, and they say, don't listen to him. But as Siddhartha begins to speak, they notice something has changed in him and about him. He has the air of wisdom. He has achieved ultimate enlightenment, and they listen as he gives his first sermon. Now, of course, we're revising, and so we need to know fancy names for things. And the first sermon is called the Dharmakaya Pavartana Sutta, the teaching that sets the wheel in motion, the first sermon. And it's such an important one. Within it contains some of the key ideas for Buddhists. We've got the 4 Noble Truths, we've got the Eightfold Path, the 3 Marks of Existence are all in there. And the 5 ascetics become the first 5 disciples, the original Sangha.